Hello, everyone. Recently, I came into possession of an ankle monitor, and this is the type that you would see when somebody was on probation or parole and they had to have their whereabouts tracked by law enforcement. And I just found it, and obviously, the person who left it behind absconded from the law because they cut it right here. Now, on the side, it has a reward, call this number, and then it has a little symbol that says don't throw in the trash. And so I was wondering, am I even going to get like the amount of money that I pay in postage to ship it to them if I were to mail it in? Because I called the number, and all it is a voice message saying, here's our address. We don't actually take calls from people. And you'll just get a check like weeks later. And, why am I going to invest up front some money if I don't know that I'm going to get, you know, as much or more money back? So I'm looking at this thing and I started thinking, well, how does this device even work? You know, so I looked closer where the fugitive must have cut this right here, and I noticed that there is only one metal wire right in the center. You can see it right there. You can see it glinting. And then there's a reinforced plastic strip that makes it harder to cut, right? And the rest is just rubber. And it's one wire that goes through the center of this entire band. And so I started thinking, how would I get around this, to cut it off in order to not alert my parole officer that I was absconding, and at least buy some time, because they're going to find out, because very often they have to go in and have visits with their parole officer, and this is obviously checked, and sometimes they have to download new information into it for different models of whatever they're wearing. So how would you at least buy a couple hours if you were to take this off? So my plan, if I were to do this, is obviously that one band right there, based on how long you would have for a charge on these things, I'm saying it's not passing a constant current through that wire. That would actually probably be dangerous anyway. It's probably sensing a resistance, and it's probably an open or closed circuit sensing device, where if it's an open, it's like infinite resistance, and if it's a closed, it's probably less than 1 ohm. So how do we keep it 1 ohm in this circuit? By bridging the circuit in order to be able to cut it and still get it off your leg, and buy you some time. So what I've devised as a plan is, first you would take a soldering iron, right? And you're not going to start right where he did, because that was stupid, right? You're gonna be cutting right here in the middle, right? And that's going to give you enough room to work on either side. So what you're going to do is you're going to scrape off some of the rubber on one side, right here, to expose that wire, and then do the same on the other side, right here, right? With the two spots where the rubber is exposing the wire, because you've burned some off, you now have 2 points of contact, right, that you can work with. Now, you're going to take your soldering iron and tin it. That means put some more solder on it and scrape off all that rubber that you just contaminated your iron with. Then you're going to take another piece of wire, a very big one, as big as you're going to need, and you're going to solder this wire, the two ends, to the two spots where you had the exposed wire that's inside of this band, right? That gives you a completely different circuit to work with. Then, when you have that other circuit that's as big of a loop as you want, you're going to cut right here in the center, right? Right there, right? And when you do, you're going to have the other wire bridging the gap between, where you cut, because all you need is to keep that conductance there. And if your other wire is, good enough to have that ohm sensor that's inside of this thing not drop, raise to like infinite, because it's probably just an open or closed sensor. I'm betting. This thing can't be that sensitive. Then you're going to be good until they come looking for you, for a regular visit. Now, here's the thing. If you lived in a larger metropolitan area, they probably don't use shit like this. This is something that you would see from companies that don't really care whether or not they're actually doing their job. If you live in a larger metropolitan area, they could probably put a pulse meter right here. Just like a smartwatch would have nowadays, or sometimes even people's phones. If that's the case, as soon as you get it off your leg, it's going to sound an alarm no matter what. And if you were using my plan right here, here's my plan for Plan B. Oh shit, the shit just hit the fan. What you're going to do is you're going to cut off the spots where you soldered, because you don't want them to see that you adulterated this in any way, because that's going to be federal charges, right? So then, with it cut, just take the parts that you didn't adulterate and stick them in your back pocket. Then vomit all over yourself by sticking your fingers into your mouth. Make sure you get all of your clothes good and vomity. Then walk into an emergency room and flop on the ground like a fish, and make them believe that you are overdosing. You need to froth, okay? And when you get in there, they're going to cut your clothes off, right? So your PO will probably be getting the location of where you are, and they'll go into the emergency room, and they'll see your pile of clothes cut, and they'll see that your ankle monitor even was cut, and you can just chalk it up to, well, they needed access to my body, and they cut everything, and that's who I would blame it on. That's just my shit hits the fan scenario there. Modify it as you will. I don't actually recommend becoming a felon in the first place. Keep within the limits of the law, everybody. I don't recommend ever getting to the point where you ever have to think about anything like this. But that would be my plan, to hack a ankle monitor.